right, special right triangles today. There's a couple rules about these special right triangles that you can use as shortcuts to finding the missing sides. But keep in mind, you can always use the Pythagorean theorem on a right triangle to find a side length. Okay? So, the first triangle, in a 45, 45, 90. Triangle. The hypotenuse is equal to a leg times square root of 2. In a 45, 45, 90, the hypotenuse is equal to a leg times the square root of 2. The length of a leg equals the hypotenuse divided by square root of 2. Hypotenuse. Yeah, is there a T in there? Yeah, I spelled it. Yeah. Okay.
I was going to say something.
So here's what it would look like in a find the length of a side picture. If you're given this picture, first of all, if you're given this picture, this is a right triangle, and you're told that two sides, or that the two legs are equal to each other, you need to know that both of these angles are 45 degrees. Because it's an isosceles right triangle. If two legs are congruent, then the angles opposite those legs are congruent. And vice versa. So if this side right here is 5, and you're asked to find the value of x, or you're asked to find the value of x and y, well, if these sides are congruent, then y is equal to 5. And x is equal to 5 radical 2. That's it. That's the rule about a special right triangle. If you know the length of a side, you multiply it by the square root of 2 to find the length of the hypotenuse. The other way you can be given the picture find the value of x and y. If this is a right triangle, and one of the angles, one of the acute angles is 45, what's the other one? 45. So if these two angles are the same, then these two sides are the same. So x and y are going to be equal to each other. So x is going to be equal to 10 divided by the square root of 2. So in your calculator, type 10 divided by 2 square root and hit equals. Anybody got an answer? Say again? 7.1. Sounds good. 10 divided by 2, square root button, and push equals. 45, 45, 90. Those are the shortcuts on those types of triangles. You don't have to use the Pythagorean theorem. You can use the shortcuts. Got it? All right. So in a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the hypotenuse, spelled correctly, is equal to the short leg times 2 and the long leg equals the short leg times square root of 3. So, $30, 60, 90. Make sure you understand that in a 30, 60, 90, the side opposite the 30 is the short leg. The side opposite the 60 is the long leg. And the side opposite the 90 is the hypotenuse, spelled correctly. So let's say this short side is 4. If the short side is 4, let's go with blue. I like blue. Short side's 4. Then the hypotenuse is equal to 4 times the square. No, it's not. What's it equal to?
4 times is 2.
Which is?
8.
8. Good. If the short side's 4, the hypotenuse is 8. It's the 4 times 2. 4 times 2 equals 8. The long side is going to be 4 times the square root of 3. Got it? Now, draw this, and then when I'm done drawing it, you can tell me if it makes sense or not. Okay, we're going to put an arrow from here to here. And we're going to put times 2. Times 2. I know. And then we're going to put a line with an arrow on it from here to here. And we're going to push times square root of 3.
Makes sense.
Make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not done yet. Then we're going to put an arrow from here around the corner over to there. And we're going to put divide by square root of 3. And then from the hypotenuse, spelled correctly, we're going to go around the corner and we're going to put a divide by 2.
Yeah, it makes sense because it's just opposite.
Do the arrows and all that make sense? No. Okay. I thought it made perfect sense when I started doing that a long time ago. I thought it made way more sense than trying to remember the words. What it means is that if you know the short side, and the arrow means I need the hypotenuse, I multiply by 2. If I know the short side and I need the long side, I multiply by the square root of 3. If I know the hypotenuse and I need the short side, I divide by 2. And if I know the long side and I need the short side, I divide by the square root of 3. That's what it means. And really, if you can just remember the inside, then the outside's just the opposite, isn't it? If you know the short side and you multiply by the square root of 3 to get the long side, well, if you know the long side, you just divide by the square root of 3 to get the short side. That's it. That's the rules about special right triangles. Shortcuts. Okay? Anybody confused? Anybody need any more lessoning? Teaching? Y'all want to hear a funny story? I don't have one. Anybody need to see an example problem on the, let's do an example on the 30, 60, 90. Let's say you get this picture.
I'm going off to college soon, and I don't even know how to make ramen without failing.
Exactly.
So I need help.
Okay, so let's say you're given this.
Why don't you be a chef?
Here's a scenario where you got a right triangle and you're just told, here's your given information, you're asked to solve for x and y. The way we're going to leave it for this week. Okay? Since one of the acute angles is 30, the other one has to be 60. So now you know it's a 30, 60, 90, and you can use the rules. If you know the long leg, then isn't x equal to the long leg divided by the square root of 3? Okay? And you can do that in your calculator. Now you know the short leg. If you know the short leg and you need the hypotenuse, you do 2 times 8 over the square root of 3. And you get the decimal equivalent. All right? That's how it works. That's all you have to do. Follow the arrows. If you know the long leg, you go to the short leg next by dividing by square root of 3. If you know the short leg and you need the hypotenuse, you follow the directions I gave you and you multiply by 2. If you know the long leg and you need the short leg, you divide by the square root of 3. You wrote this down.
Oh, okay.
Now that you know the short leg, you need the hypotenuse. So if you need, that's what the arrow means, I need the hypotenuse, I multiply by 2.
So x would be 2.7 and y would be 5.3.
If that's what it equals, my calculator doesn't work.
X 2.7.
I got 4.7. Yeah, I got 4.7.
What did I do?
You're not hitting equals at the end of your problem. You're taking 8 and dividing it by the square root of 3. And you're not pushing equals.